Cream Esports will find themselves on the blue, Nova Esports on the red, and this is where things are going to start getting pretty interesting.
Yeah, they definitely will, as we are going to have 4 bans for this time around.
We're going to get some confirmation to see. I don't believe that the 4 bans is there. I believe we're still sticking to the same rule set that has been. So for the graphical thing on your guys' screen, don't think about it right now. We can just continue to operate this as we usually have. If anything changes, of course, we'll let you guys know. But a first ban quickly here for Cream Esports.
The Richter removed off the board, and that's a curious focus for the side lane. You typically do see Richter removed, but it's by no means the be-all, end-all. Typically, banning against Nova, you start with your bans targeting the jungle picks. You get rid of the Murad, you get rid of things that can threaten when they're played by Vex.
Yeah, I mean, Richter, one of the better top laners, or the solo laners, as So said, is definitely one of the things you want to take out of the pool, and you don't want to give that to Nova.
Florentina will be removed following. That is almost mandated at this point. The other mandated picks, of course, are the Sephora, the Elsu. Typically, those are 100% pick ban at this level, and you can expect those to come through, but Cream have a tough task ahead of them, because like I was talking about, they do need to start thinking about target pick ban. They do need to start worrying about what they're taking away from Nova Esports that has looked stellar.
Elsu immediately taken off away. The 3 of our 4 strong heroes immediately find themselves on the ban table now. Clearly, we've got Sephora left alive, as well as that potential Varus. Of these 2 teams and the members that they have, are there capable Varus players on these rosters?
I would expect so. We obviously don't know, but I would expect Nova Esports have picked it up because they have a very, very strong work ethic, and I would guarantee that Cream Esports coming into this match looking to be disruptors have at least considered it.
Yeah, they definitely have, and Sephora is going to get banned out, so a good mid lane mage does provide that healing as well as the stun on the face of the W ability, or the second ability there, so that's definitely going to be a good thing to have.
There's the Varus getting removed. This is worrying for me because Cream Esports need to start worrying about target bans. If they just go all the way through and just ban out the powerful characters, they leave Nova their pick of the litter.
All right, so just to give you guys an update for those that are watching at home, the 4-ban system actually is activated for this week. So the way that you'll see this happen is it'll be 2, you'll find ourselves with 2 bans for each team, as you saw. We will find ourselves with a short pick phase, and then a second phase of banning for the final 2, and then another pick phase, which this, for those of you that are aware of international format, completely changes the entirety of the way the draft phase operates.
Yeah, my bad, I slipped up, and this is how it operates during several of the Asian leagues, so we've just kind of caught up to them. That means the first pick does come through, and we do get a Varus, and that's very exciting, because that'll presumably be in the side laner's hands. I'd expect Hot to pick it up. The problem is that's a Tulin.
Yeah, that Tulin does come through, and I would imagine since it's Vex's pick, Murad is open. It's not being banned out currently because of the draft phase.
I don't think they need to first pick it though, because Vex has options, and that's been a major focus. I'd actually like to see Nova shifting more over towards getting a support for Grizzly Q.
See, I say that, but at the same time, knowing what we have from Alex P and the prowess that he has on the Tulin, it could just as much be an opportunity to deny that away.
Yes, and they do get that away. They'll follow through on the Cream Esports side. I expect to see a Liliana coming through for Alex P eventually, maybe a Raz. But that doesn't need to be prioritized because unless Nova are running double
Of course, well, yeah,
mid.
no, for sure. Talanis, of course, the other pick for Nova Esports, and now the Lindis hover by Cream.
Yeah, Lindis is going to be an incredible thing to have. If they so as well choose to pick it up, but they change it to Flash. And it's still going to be Lindis. Yeah, I'm happy. I'm Flash one trick. Proud as well.
We saw on Twitter not too long ago, you're officially the #1 Flash on the server, is that correct?
Well, I was at one point. I definitely was.
At one point, he was the #1 Flash in Estonia, but there are only like 3 people there, so I'm not...
3 people that play AoV.
Hold up.
No, in total.
Oh, okay.
Hold up. There's more, because there are people that don't know how region choosing works, so there's more people.
Okay, all right. Well, Annette, back to the game. No Flash for you. Sorry about that, Envision. But Annette and Lindis have been locked in for the support in jungle now for Cream Esports.
Expect to see a lot of Lindis, and the reason why is because Lindis is currently the most powerful jungle marksman, and she can be running the side lane. So you can run Lindis literally wherever, and that flexibility makes her a very, very powerful pick. Should Cream Esports decide they need an assassin in order to battle what Nova pull out, they have the time to flex over to it and put the Lindis in the sideline. Otherwise, they can build for a more backline damage source using the Lindis here.
So I feel Nova Esports now is at a moment where they have to decide what are they going to prioritize, because the following ban phase will then reduce those options in the other roles. Support position could be quite the option for them. That does seem to be the lock-in. I like this as well, because Cream Esports, having already picked their support in the Annette, could essentially reduce the pool. So with Teamy locked in now and 2 bans apiece, side laners become the priority.
Yes, for Cream, though I would actually love them to focus in on banning out the jungle here. Because Nova Esports already have their sideline telling us they'll obviously target, but I'd like Cream to take away Vex's favorite picks.
So looking at Nova, though, they must be looking at mid laners because they've picked up a mid laner themselves, but the opposition hasn't on the face of Cream Esports. So something like Liliana would definitely be a strong ban here going forward.
I feel Alex P is flexible enough that he could make it work, but we haven't seen a whole bunch of that flexibility to date. He has only played Tulin and Sephora. With Sephora already banned, he'll have to pull something else out already.
Nova Esports doing a solid job, and look at that. The prediction comes out indeed already, right off the mark. Envision doing some solid work here on the analyst desk as Liliana is taken across. And now with these 30-second timers, this gives Cream as well as Nova plenty of time to discuss their thoughts and the direction they're wanting to go with these bans.
Once again, I want this to be a Murad. Thank God it does come through. That starts to take things away from Vex. I don't know if you need to get rid of the Nacroth as well, but I'd certainly consider it. I'd actually advocate for them going for a Violet rather than a Nacroth because they have a Lindis.
Well, do you think maybe Zephys would be a strong ban? Because Zephys is still open, and Zephys is one of the key things that Vex has played in the past, and he's been incredibly successful with that character. Zephys has a lot of initiation on him as well.
I'm actually not so worried about the Zephys because the Zephys is a very good battling character, meaning that if you pick up the Zephys, yeah, Vex is going to do well, but he's not going to be a major source of damage for the team. He's going to be more about those team fights. And that means I think you get your desired scenario.
Instead, Nova Esports, though, continues to prioritize the mid lane. They want to put Alex P in a difficult spot. The flash hover gave it away, showed the cards of Cream Esports' strategy. Nova shuts that down immediately with 2 mid bans, which is now going to reduce the options that he will have against Poseidon's Tulin.
Historically, Alex P has played Raz to an alright degree, also played L'Oreal to an alright degree, played a very good Jinnar, but I don't see the Jinnar working with the rest of this draft. I do really like that, though.
The Ryoma, apart from the strength that Vex has created, let's just take a strong hero that has created himself, or has put himself in almost a very foundational position within the Valor series in all 3 regions.
They can just draft Quillin, though. If they really want to get Vex on a melee, they can still get Quillin over, and I would argue that they're just as happy with that as Ryoma. Though the Murad obviously is his comfort pick, Quillin's very good.
Vex has had some solid games on Ryoma, so the Vex is definitely a force to be reckoned with, especially now that Varus is on Cream's esports side. Maybe they're looking to shut down kind of 2-in-1 combo in that Ryoma ban, because Ryoma can go into a side lane as well.
Ooh.
Wukong.
Surely not.
No. All right, now they're just messing with us. Instead, they're going to go with another melee that we haven't got a chance to talk about. Kriknak is locked in, hiding their cards for their last pick here on red side, wanting to see what the last 4 or 5 picks are for Cream.
The Kriknak gives them that burst damage that I think they were looking for, as well as the mobility to get onto the backline. Varus, Annette, Lindis are all very good extended brawlers. They all have healing abilities, so you're trying to burst them down before those healing abilities can come into effect. This Alistair pick, should Alex P lock it in, gives them the ability to intercept that dive. The Magic Prison stops the drone drop lead.
Well, I do think it stops it, but at the same time, I think that Alistair's a little bit too immobile for now. When you look at the opposition team, they have Tulin, they have Teleanas to kind of stun the opposition with those Chaos Arrows. We have Teamy who can jump in with that booty poot speed boost as well. And Kriknak drone drop is definitely something that you can stun up, but there's more coming your way.
And that's why Cream draft the Wonder Woman, because I think they're spotting the same problem you are. And this could be what I talked about earlier. They can put the Wonder Woman in the jungle role or in the sideline role, and either way, she will function as an extra source of support team fight prowess, so that when dive comes through, you have an extra AoE stun to slow down the fight.
And before it's a crazy Varus jungle into Wonder Woman solo. and Lin this side lane.
I'd live for that. I think we've seen Varus's jungle clear isn't quite fast enough to be valid, but hey, it's the first week of her competitive play. We certainly could see something wacky.
I was gonna say Zenial's an incredibly good pick here, but they're just hovering around 3 characters as it seems. Oh, never mind.
I think at this point in time, you just have to wait until something gets locked in, because if there's anything that we have gathered thus far, Nova Esports is willing to cycle across the board. They keep going back to the Zenial and to the Malik. They do need to find themselves a little bit of frontline, though. They have got a lot of skirmers, but they need someone to tank up some of this damage.
I would really have liked the Zenial, because then they get that teamy Zenial combo for a ton of resurrect potential. Should a team fight start, you can go ahead and heal up people, but they opt not to go for that, kind of going for the offensive equivalent. The Malik is very, very good within team fights, because that AoE shock, you can come down, stun up, and slow an entire team fight. But I worry they maybe don't have quite enough to keep their backline alive, particularly the Talon will be under siege.
I will say that what the Malik does add to their stature is a strong, is a committal to the strong early game. The Malik, with the power that he's able to create in the side lane, could do enough to offset this Cream Esports, because if what we've seen, the game Nova Esports lost, like any of these better teams, it's they have trouble when they have to play from behind. So the best way to mitigate that, the best way to make sure that that doesn't happen, pick heroes that do operate well in the early game. Malik, as well as being the frontline tank, quote-unquote, for their team, could help out with that.
I would say Malik is an incredibly good pick, because once again, you look at the Alistar. I mean, Malik cannot be stopped on the jump in. Wonder Woman can't do anything. The Malik jump is almost instant on that ultimate, so Alistar's going to have an incredibly difficult time, and there's just so much coming his way. Cream Esports, they have to play on top of their game, because their backlines, they're going to be in world of hurt.
I want to take a quick step back, though, before we talk about the team specifically. How does Varus fit into this? We obviously have a lot of new viewers. This is the first time that we're going to see her be played at a level this high. With the compositions that we have, gentlemen, how does Varus fit into this, and what sort of impact will she have as a hero?
The number one thing that I'm looking for from Varus is her capacity to stay alive and extend the duration of team fights. She does an incredible amount of damage in close-range brawls that she can keep going under her ideal circumstances. Now, there are issues. If she misses one cycle, doesn't get the lifesteal from her passive, that big AoE swirl of damage, then she'll start to fall behind, and that could create trouble. But her ultimate, Venom, a name I'm sure you'll be shouting multiple times during this, is this giant AoE horde of spikes that gives her lifesteal, and she can extend the duration of the lifesteal. So if we see some of those good ults towards the end of team fights where they do bonus damage to low HP characters, she can absolutely clean up.
Yeah, Varus definitely is a strong brawler, but I would say Varus is an incredibly good matchup up against Malik, because Malik is known for having that cleave that gives him the passive, which means that you're going to be able to lifesteal up and have that true damage. I think Varus kind of matches that lifesteal and the kind of damage that she brings to the table. I think Varus will have an incredibly good line up against Malik, and now going into kind of early into mid transition, I think Varus will come in handy, because Varus can stay alive during those fights, and as you said, she can extend those fights way longer than they need to be. Of course, Nova has Teamy for that, but at the same time, Teamy can only do so much if a Varus is running around stunning and pulling and pushing people.
Gentlemen, we are going to find out how Varus will affect the games, but more importantly, how this new pick ban system will affect Nova and Cream as they take the field for our first European match of the day. TJ and Envision, it's your call.
Well, indeed we are into the game, as we have Might Golem straight off the bat being taken by Nova Esports. They're gonna start the aggressive playstyle.
Yeah, very aggressive pushing from Nova, and that's what they need to do. Don't let anything slip out of control. Cream are trying to answer, pressing in up top. They did get a golem, and Hot is actually brawling in the middle of all this.
Well, that's the power that Varus does bring to the table. Those spins just coming through time and time again. You see the damage that Coco's taken. It's incredible.
Yeah, and now that's going to get worse as the noobs' wind cuffs actually synergize very well. There's a lot of slow stun tools, which actually really sets up Alex P.
Yeah, indeed it is. But for now, these teams are going to take a step back. They're going to go a little bit more defensive here. They're going to opt to go for lanes and take that minion farm, because as good as fighting is, you cannot win your opponents if you do not have the items to deal the damage, if you do not have the levels that your skills will need in order to deal more damage.
I'm actually unpacking a little bit more of this composition right now, and I'm really enjoying how the Annette works into the rest. So you have the Alistar and you have the Lindis, all of which are going to work really well against people that are slowed and stunned, because they're looking for these sustained fights taking place over a long period of time. That's very, very good if you can land all the stuns that the rest of the characters can offer.
Indeed it is, but finally Abyssal Dragon has come up, which means Cream Esports, they're going to be focusing on that, and they take it uncontested.
Very good pickup for Cream up top. They're even Hot's managing to challenge some of the pressure towards that Spirit Sentinel, meaning that Nova are falling solidly behind in gold. That's got to be a little bit worrying if you remember their lost game earlier in the Valor series against Existence, where this is exactly what happened.
Yeah, indeed, it is a slight gold lead in Cream Esports' favor, of course, because that Abyssal Dragon, so it does help them out just a little bit. But Cream Esports now, they're looking to answer the aggression that was just down on the bottom lane, as we do have a jump in from Talented coming through in that prison is going to lock down Alex B. As you said, from those rotations will help his team out.
And you doubted me. Varric, that's the power of the excellent use of Alistar. The noob, though, is in trouble.
He was forced to use an ultimate Grizzly Q. He's going to be caught out now. He's in the midst of multiple enemies. The lasso of truth is going to be popped, but Teamy is going to be able to get away. The chain lands over the wall onto a small minion camp, but Cream, they're going to go aggressive. Sage Golem's going to get stolen.
Coco's still in the middle of all this. Talented will have a nice bracelet.
Ooh, that's a really good ultimate. Coco is going to be jumping in, but Cream Esports is there in full force, and there's the ultimate coming through. Coco goes down. Nova, they lose another.
The Magic Prison again stalling up the fight midway through. Brilliant use of it from Alex P, and on the right target multiple times. You might think that the Malik's a very high HP tank you don't want to target, but because he has the potential to extend those fights so long, it was critical they stopped him from landing the Soul Eaters and the Cleaves that would have allowed him to regain the HP he needed.
Yeah, that is definitely true, but when you look at the Alistar's kit as well, it's incredible DPS damage that Alistar does bring to the table, especially in the early game, because if you have the Matrix of Woe down and you channel your ultimate as well, the Magic Prison, that means you will pop that passive multiple times, and that passive will deal true damage to anyone that is basically taking enough stacks of your poison.
The Alistar, very, very powerful in those fights. But I want to take a step back and talk about the potential of stunning to keep him safe, because that's what they have to do. As you discussed, he doesn't have a whole bunch of mobility, so they're relying on the other character's stuns to keep him safe.
Yeah, that's definitely true, and they are looking for those stuns, as you said.
A lot of that's going to come from the wind cuffs from the noob, the bracelets of submission from Talented, but also he has a little bit himself. He can use that magic barrier, the wall, to slow down anyone directly diving at him. That works versus Crickback, even midair.
It does indeed, but it has to be timed perfectly there. But Cream Esports for now, they've taken another Abyssal Dragon. They've extended their gold lead to about rough 1.3 thousand in this. It's looking so good for them in the early game, but everything can change in the mid game.
We had a discussion midway through the game. They were losing against Existence. We still weren't sure. We quite favored Existence when they were like a 10k up, because Nova are so good at coming back into games. Here, though, you're right. They have dropped an awful lot in the early game. No tower is gone yet, though, so nothing is permanent.
And nothing is permanent in this, as Alex is going to get caught up. There's the Wonderboard ultimate going to land as well. The Arrow of Chaos has been let fly as Nova, they're looking for blood, but they don't find anything. Frost comes in with those double auto attacks, but it's only going to be a little bit of damage.
But that's a victory for Nova. Any moment they can stall out, any moment they can extend the game, they're buying time for Oxy to come in. And I think they're relying on Oxy's late game potential to be their main source of damage. Just as we're talking about the defense for Cream, they don't actually have a whole lot of characters that can dive and get into the Telenas on the back line.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So Cream going into late game will have the problem of taking down the back line, but at the same time, it's not what they're looking for. They're looking to take the enemy down in full force in the beginning of the fight, or they are looking to defend their own back line. They have the incredibly mobile Lindis when they're fighting in the jungle, and they do have Alex P, who is immobile, which means the enemy is going to be looking to go for him.
Yeah, I think the defense for Cream is on point. The question is really whether or not they have the offensive power once we get to late game, because otherwise, late game goes to Cream. The Alistar, especially the Lindis especially, will farm up to massive damage, but if they can't deal with that Telenas, it doesn't matter how much damage the front line is doing, because Tel will outscale all of it.
Yeah, and Cream does have a pretty good defensive lineup in the sense of a net as well. A net ultimate is so potent in keeping the enemy away and resetting those fights as Cream has been rotating down onto the bottom. They take an Abyssal Dragon and the tower as well for good measure, and they're going to initiate onto Grizzly Q, who is going to be running away from this one.
Another Abyssal Dragon picked up, the first tower of the game picked up. This is Cream Esports starting kind of codifying their leads. Now they've gotten themselves significantly on the board, and Nova are going to have to work this back, particularly because that tower pickup guarantees all this jungle goes back to Cream.
Yeah, it indeed does. The map control that those tier 1 towers provide is essential, at least in the early to mid game. In the late game, you have farmed up, and you're a little bit more safe in that sense. You're rotating around as a team. In the mid to early game, you do not want to lose your tier 1s, because that will mean that the opposition can go for an engage in your jungle.
And any little bit of gold being stolen by Cream is exponential at this point. I like to cite that any gold taken from your jungle is doubly effective, because not only, of course, do the enemy team get it, but you don't get it. So Vex, a player we talk so much about farming for the late game, trying to find that damage from the Cricknat, he's going to struggle because he will not be ahead come late game.
Yeah, that will be true as drone drop has been popped by Vex already. The noob is down to half HP.
But he shrugged it off. It did minimal damage, and you've got to do better than that.
Oh, Frost does get caught out, but Arrow of Chaos. Frost is going to be backing away from this one. Noob takes a lot of damage. Cricknat does come in, but there's the lockdown coming through. Vex has been stopped on the retreat there. It's going to be Vex as well. And finally, Cream Esports, they turn around. They are not looking for the ball, but there it is. Varus comes through. The ultimate's going to be there, and what a venom it was.
The flicker away from Alex P, then into the wall. He waited so long on that flicker. I was watching him, running for the Cricknat, running for the Malik. He never once was tempted, and then the second they had an opportunity, he used it to bait in the dive, land Grizzly Q inside a magic barrier, then he flickers away the second the stun comes through. There's the Venom from Hot.
Yeah, it is indeed.
And the Venom from Hot, it does execute damage, meaning that the lower HP you are, the more damage it does. So when you see those half HP, quarter HP characters, they can just be one-shot by the Venom.
Finally, Nova does get the first objective for themselves. The Abyssal Dragon has gone down, but meanwhile, middle lane, that tower is just so low.
Yeah, and Hot's been pushing away at the top tower this whole time. Didn't get very much damage, but forced the split focus. At this point, Cream Esports are beginning to really develop this lead. I don't like to call any lead against Nova, but we are seeing about 2,000 of one right now.
Oh, Talented does come in from the sidelines, gets a stun, almost gets the lasso onto Poseidon, who is going to be retreating now half HP. Finally, Cream, they have to be on the retreat themselves as they disengage from this fight. Meanwhile, top lane, though, we do have a little bit of rotation coming in. Varus as well as Lindis, they're looking for action, and they do find a tower. Finally, Coco is going to use the shock, but he goes down because Cream has rotated more than 2 members there.
Frost able to begin to burn down towers. He's been played inside the jungle on this Lindis, and that's going to become a serious threat towards the Nova towers as we get towards the late game.
So, I mean, they are going to be looking for Darkslayer, as we do have a little bit of poke back and forth going here. But has Nova had a game where 10 minutes in they haven't had a kill yet? As Nova does initiate finally, they're looking for something, but Cricknat is the first to fall. He's gonna respawn back up as he gets taken down a second time. Frost is gonna be around to freeze the Cricknat and stop him from going anywhere.
Darkslayer will be the next focus. Cream Esports, if they take this, they're almost guaranteed more towers.
They indeed will be in the map control they have right now. They've taken every tier 1 on the map. The tier 2s in middle and bottom are half HP. It's looking rather tough for Nova.
Especially if this Enraged Abyssal Dragon goes over, but I'd like to follow our storyline. We said Oxy was going to be the main problem for Cream towards the late game. He's actually still doing all right. The highest level on his team, he's on par with the highest level over on Cream, and he's not too far behind in personal gold at 7.4k. He's actually almost on par with the most farmed players of Cream Esports. He's got his Bow of Slaughter, he's got his Glove Sanctity, he's got his Muramasa. He's going to be doing real damage.
He is going to be doing real damage, but the problem they have is that although he has the necessary items, his team is just not there. The front line isn't tanky enough to tank that up.
Yeah, they're relying on Coco and Grizzly Q. Grizzly Q doesn't really need HP because he has that Resurrect coming through. most of the damage that needs to be tanked up then needs to be tanked by Coco.
What a pull coming through from Talented. Does pick up the Oxy on Telonis, and just as we were praising him for being on par, he goes down. And now Cream, they're looking at the pressure as they have done in all 3 lanes. All 3 tier 2s have got the Venom is there, and the initiation from Cream. Shock's gonna come through, it's gonna land onto one, the respawn. Grizzly is there, but the spin on Varus will secure him the kill. And now Coco has fallen. Grizzly is the next, and Oxy has gone down prior. Vex was stunned up in the base. It's in shambles.
An excellent win by Cream Esports. They take down Nova, the reigning champions of the region. Earlier I said they needed to look good. They looked in